Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of True Talks, which is a podcast that I'm starting. I'll be giving kind of a summary of what it's going to be all about in a second, but first I am going to do what is going to become tradition at the beginning, just to remind you all, well, not remind, but tell you for the first time now. All the gameplay that you're seeing on the screen is my own. It's recorded by me, but it also, to note, has nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about. It's just there as a visual if you happen to want to have something to watch at the same time. But it's not necessary to understand the contents of the video. The age rating of these podcasts is going to approximately be around the upper PG to regular PG-13 rating. I'm not going to try too hard to censor myself. Some stuff might slip out. It's going to be all unfiltered, but just keep that in mind as you're watching. Normally, maybe I'm a weenie for giving that disclaimer at the beginning, but I'm also a teacher, so I feel like I kind of have to. But to go over the stuff we're going to talk about today, I'm going to just talk about the fishing trip that I went on the past week and what's been going on with the internet over the summer. This isn't going to be releasing until I am beginning teaching, like the first week of September is probably when this is going to drop, I'm thinking. I'm not positive on that, but just know that it's going to be way behind on, the current event stuff. I'm going to be talking about my fishing trip and the internet stuff I've been dealing with. I'm going to give a summary of everything that is going to be going on with these podcasts in the future. And I'm going to talk about Everdell versus Stone Age as a worker placement board game, what I enjoy about each game, and just talk about that. I'm going to talk about the Nintendo Direct that happened in June. For me, it's been 2 days. 2 days. For all of you, it's been months. And maybe there will have even been a Direct since then. But to specify, this is the June 2023 Direct that I'm going to be talking about in this. A special segment I'm going to go over my super early NFC North record predictions for every team in the NFC North in football. And that's going to actually be kind of interesting because I'm doing this way early. It's June for me, but by the time this releases, it's going to be about time to start the season. So it'll be interesting. And then the final topic I'm going to be talking about today is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles 2 versus Xenoblade Chronicles 3. What I like, what I don't like, how would they compare to each other. Just because I think that's interesting, because normally everyone compares 1 and 2. I haven't heard many people throwing 3 into the discussion. Okay, before I get into the current event segment, I'm going to give an overview of what these podcasts are actually going to look like. Because you're probably interested, maybe not. The main purpose of these is to actually be a sleep aid, or something that you can throw on in the background on a long drive or something. It's basically, I listed my topics down, what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to just ramble about them. I have no script other than just the idea of what I'm going to talk about for each one. Other than that, I've really got basically no structure. So it's going to be a lot of rambling, a lot of transitional words, maybe some pauses here and there. So the idea is that it's something you can turn on, a long-form video that you can turn on that will take the place of my usual live streams. So you can just turn it on and fall asleep to it, because it's not, you can trust me in saying that it's not going to get too crazy. I'm not going to randomly yell or scream or anything like that, so the volume level is going to stay pretty consistent. But if you do want to actually watch because you're interested in what I have to say, there will be the gameplay of some random game that I decide to record myself playing going on in the background that you can watch or have just as some additional viewing for your viewing pleasure, I suppose you could say. But yeah, that's mainly, it's sort of the thing where it just gives you something to watch with your eyes rather than having to sit there and listen. But the main purpose for these is going to be something to put on in the background, as I said before, whether you're working on homework, whether you're riding/driving in the car, whether you're trying to fall asleep and you need some random video to fall asleep to. Because honestly, something that I like, it's a personal choice because I enjoy, like, I fall asleep to YouTube every night. And sometimes it's a struggle to find something to watch because I want something that I'm, like, interested in, but at the same time not so invested in that it's going to keep me awake paying attention to it. Like, I need sort of that middle ground, and I'm hoping that maybe other people will find that in one of these videos. And that's also the reason that every video I'm going to go over every topic that I'm talking about, so maybe if you're interested in some of the... Sorry, my dad is asking what I want for dinner. Okay, that's taken care of. I was hoping there would be no interruptions, but literally, like, he texted, like, 3 minutes into me starting, asking what I wanted for food for tonight. So, oof. Okay. So, the way this is going to work is I'm going to give all the topics at the beginning of the video. I'll also give that little disclaimer, not disclaimer, but like age rating thing, plus reassuring people that the video is my gameplay, and it's not necessary to understand the content of the video, that sort of thing. Then normally it'll move into a current event. I'm going to record these week by week, and I'm just going to talk about stuff that I've been doing over the past week. Just ramble about that in the beginning, which will be like a current event segment to start off. And then there will be what I'm calling main topic A. And then, which will be like a 15 to 20 minute segment. That's what I'm shooting for the main topics, is like 15 to 20 minutes. And then after topic A, I'll transition into a topic B, which will again be that 15 to 20 minute mark. And then there will be a special segment in the middle, which, like, for this video, or this podcast, it's going to be my NFC North record predictions. Sometimes maybe I'll have a guest on. Patrick and I have talked about having him come on to talk about Mountain Dew flavors, or talk about, like, marching band stuff, because that's also something that he's into. And that'll be the special segment that kind of breaks up between topic B and C. And then finishing the video will be a topic C, which in general, I'm trying to keep those more open-ended, like something that I can talk about for a while longer. Like in this one, it's Xenoblade 2 and 3, obviously something that I have a lot to say about. And the hope is that that will take around 30 minutes. My goal is to make these podcasts around an hour 15, hour and a half long-ish, depending on what is going to be going on in them, what I'm going to be talking about. Sometimes maybe I won't have a whole lot to talk about, sometimes maybe I will. But the goal for this is, because I have a lot of interests, as you may have seen with me doing the whole 3-minute review thing, where I reviewed board games, video games, movies, and such. And the goal for those was to make quick videos that people could just watch and at a glance get an idea of how I feel about that particular movie, game, or whatever it was, and be able to at least get something from it. Like almost the equivalent of reading a review on Amazon, where it's just a short little blurb. Whereas here, I might review like a movie or compare it to like other movies, or it might be in the current event segment, like talking about like a movie that I just saw or something like that, so that I can talk about it a little bit longer. Basically, this is just an excuse for me to ramble for an hour and a half straight. I'm even drinking coffee during this, so if you hear a bit of silence, it's because I'm sipping on my coffee. Hint, hint, I was about to sip on my coffee. But I think that about does it for, like, what this is gonna be, what you can expect from it. It's really gonna be pretty much a wild card. Like, it's not gonna cover specific topics. Like, as you can see today, I'm talking about board games, fishing, and football, along with some video game stuff as well. So I'm interested in a lot of things, so it's kind of an excuse for me to just come up with some random topic that I'm interested in and talk about it for a while. And maybe people will care to listen. Maybe it'll put people to sleep. Either way, it fits my goal. But yeah, I think that about does it for the beginning of this. So the first topic of discussion is Everdell and Stone Age. For those who don't know, Everdell and Stone Age are two quite different thematically speaking board games, but they're the same genre. Like, you do the same sort of thing. It's called worker placement, and I suppose I should explain what that is so that this will last a little longer too. Basically, it's a game where there are spaces on a board that give you certain resources, whether it be cards or like in that specific game resource. Like in Everdell, for example, there's wood, resin, stone, and berries, and you have a set amount of workers that you can use in a turn, and you have to manage where you want each of them to go. Like, say you only have 4 workers, I can only put 1 on the wood so I can get wood, I can put 1 on the berries to get berries, and then they're usually used to play cards. And maybe as you get through the game, your cards will produce some of those resources as well, which is how it works in Everdell. In Stone Age, it's a little different, which is why I'm comparing the two, because they're the same genre, but just goes to show like how much one genre can expand on itself. And I'm mainly rambling about this because I want to decide which one I like more than the other, because it's kind of a hard decision for me because I really like both. But Everdell, the story behind it is basically you're playing as like animals, you're playing as critters, and they are you're getting ready for winter. You're starting at the end of winter, moving into spring, and you're basically, every round is a season. And I think you start with 4 workers, and you get an addition, you get 1 extra in spring, 1 extra in summer, and then you get 2 in fall, I think is how it works, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've actually played it, so I'm talking based on memory here. But you have the board, and 1 round consists of you playing all your workers, and then after you can either put a worker down and get resources, or you can play a card if you have the resources to play a card. And you take turns going around the table doing those 2 pretty simple actions, but it results in some pretty complicated thinking, because the way it works is the cards are structured so there's buildings and there's animals. If you build a building, every building corresponds with a certain animal. So, say I built the general store, for example. When you build the general store, if you manage to get a shopkeeper in your hand, you can play the shopkeeper for free without paying the regular cost, because that shopkeeper is in the general store that you have already built, if that makes sense. So you can save on resources that way, which is way more efficient than trying to use resources for every single card that you play. But at the same time, some of those critter cards are pretty useful, and they may cost a lot of resources, but also like, for example, the king is probably the most expensive animal to play in the game. However, the castle is extremely costly to build, which the castle is what allows you to play the king for free. Maybe you don't want to spend an entire season saving resources to build the castle, so you just want to spend the berries to play the king. It's just interesting, that sort of balance between the two. But the issue that I feel in Everdell, when comparing it to Stone Age, I'll talk about Stone Age in general in a second, is every resource almost has the same value. The one that has a seemingly higher value is stone, and that's because the way that the game works is there's spaces on the board for each resource, and some of them can only be occupied by one player a season. So if one person goes to... Well, the stone is an example of that. There's only one space that gives you one stone, but only one character can be there a season. So say one player puts their worker there. Until they move to the next season, no one can take that space because they're blocking it, essentially. So stone, I guess, inherently has more value because of that. But at the same time, there's also a space where you can discard cards, and for every 2 cards you discard, you can take any resource anyways. So it's like there's those wild spaces that end up kind of evening out the resources as being more or less valuable than each other. I will say that wood is the easiest resource to come by because the space gives you 3 compared to the stone giving you 1, and more cards use wood than they use stone. So I guess there's that sort of balance as well. And then for the animals, to play the animal cards, every animal uses berries. There's no animal card that uses like wood, stone, or resin. They all use a certain amount of berries. But berries, from what I remember, are relatively easy to come by. It's just sort of an interesting balance between the two. I'm trying to give you a good it's hard to explain without having it in front of me, which is an interesting concept to start with for this show here, but oh well, we'll run with it. It gets me talking, that's the important thing. So Stone Age is a different game, like thematically entirely. You're playing as sort of your own little civilization, and in this game, you have more workers, but the way it works is there are multiple different resources. There's, I think, it's wood. Well, it's food, wood, clay, stone, and gold. I feel like I'm forgetting one. I feel like there's one I'm forgetting, but that's what I remember off the top of my head right now. And the way it works is you can put any amount of workers onto one of those resource spaces, and for every worker you put there, you have to roll a dice. So if you put 3 workers on the wood, you roll 3 dice. However, the way it works is you roll them, and you divide the sum of the dice equal to the equivalency based on what resource you're trying to get. I think wood is 2. It's either 2 or 3. I can't remember. So say you roll a 9 and it's 3, and the equivalency is 3. You would get 3 wood then because you rolled a 9 on that one. Whereas gold, I believe, is 6. Gold, you need a 6. So if you put only 1 worker on the gold and you roll anything less than a 6, you don't get anything because you round down rather than up. There are other spaces on the board as well. It's the same sort of concept as Everdell, where there's spaces on the board, and depending on where you put your workers, that's what you get to do on your turn. And most of them are resource-based. Like I said, there's food, wood, clay, stone, gold, and I think there's another one that I am not remembering, because I'm pretty positive there's one that I'm not remembering, but I'm not. No, yeah, that's right. There's only 5 resources. But because it starts at 2. For food, you divide your sum of the dice by 2. For wood, it's 3. clay it's 4, stone it's 5, and gold it's 6. Now I remember. But aside from the resource collecting spaces, there's also spaces in the middle of the board which are like huts. Like there's the breeding hut where you put 2 of your workers there and they have a child, and that's how you get more workers into your tribe and you get to do more on your future turns. There's the tool shed, which allows you to craft a tool, which tools allow you to mitigate some of the RNG, we'll call it. It mitigates some of the luck, because when you have a tool, you can use that tool once per turn to increase your dice roll by 1, or you can upgrade your as you go, you can upgrade your tools to up to 4. So you could raise your dice roll by 4 if you have a level 4 tool, which is pretty powerful because it makes it so you don't have to rely nearly as much on luck. And then there's the agriculture hut, which raises your agriculture level, which allows you to produce 1 more food in between turns. In between turns, you do a phase where you have to feed your tribe, which is where the food comes in. You have to have enough food you need to have 1 food for every worker that you have, so it's kind of a risk to make more early on. Like, you get to do more actions, but you're more likely to not be able to feed all your people. And if you don't have enough food to feed everyone, then you lose points. So that's how that sort of balance is in that game. And then the main way you get points in that one is you use the other resources other than food to pay for either buildings, which the buildings require specific resources, and they give you points equal to the, like I was saying earlier, the conversion factor. Like if, like, stone is 5, if it was 2 stone and a gold, for example, just a random example, that would give you 16 points, because the 2 stone are 5 each, and the gold is 6. So they add up, and then you get 16 points. Just a random example. I don't know if there's actually a building like that. That's one of the 2 main ways to get points. The other way is there's a set of cards where they're drawn at random, and they're put into different slots. 1 slot needs 1 resource, 1 needs 2, 3, and then up to 4. And it's just any resources other than food. And when you buy one that's cheap, all of them shift down. So say you want the one that's, well, you buy the one that's, you only need 1 resource to buy. Then the one that was worth 2 now is only worth 1. So it's cheaper for anyone who wants it. And those cards usually, it's either, there's suits of cards where the amount of different symbols gives you a certain amount of points on some chart, or there's cards that give you points based on how many workers you have at the end of the game, how many tools you have at the end of the game, how many agriculture points you have at the end of the game, and so on and so forth. But the main way you need resources to buy those cards is the important thing to note. And the benefit of the cards over the buildings is that the cards also give you an immediate reward, usually. Like, they'll give you, like, food, or maybe even, like, another resource. Like, there are some where it's like you can literally convert a wood, basically, into, like, a stone, because you pay 1 and you get a stone for getting the card. Because the card has a top and a bottom. The bottom is what you get points-wise at the end of the game, and the top is what you get immediately when you get the card. So it kind of goes between those 2 factors, where the buildings are worth more points inherently, but the cards give you that immediate benefit that allows you to get more during the game. So maybe the cards are better earlier on, but the buildings are better later as it gets closer to the end of the game. And then the game just ends. It's not like Everdell where you go through all of the seasons. The game of Stone Age ends when there's either no more buildings to unveil, like everyone has all of the buildings, or everyone has all of the cards. When either the cards run out or the buildings run out is when the game ends. So sort of the main difference that I see between them, aside from the theming, obviously, is for one, the ability to get workers at any time in Stone Age, and the fact that it punishes you for having more workers. So there's sort of that extra layer of strategy there, where Everdell, you just get more workers at the end of the season, for free. Where in Stone Age, you have to basically use two of your workers on a turn, and then you get one that you additionally have to feed for the rest of the game, so you have to worry a little bit more about your food supply running out. So there's sort of that extra check and balance in there with just the amount of workers that you even have in Stone Age that isn't really present in Everdell. And then there's also the fact that I was kind of alluding to earlier when it came to like resources having value over each other. In Everdell, it feels like every resource almost has the same value, where it's easier to get wood, but wood is used on more cards, so therefore it makes sense, whereas stone, you can't get as much of it, but it's needed for less cards. So it's kind of just pretty much even, really. Whereas Stone Age, it's not only does it have the conversion system where gold is already inherently more valuable because you need to roll a 6 or higher to get even 1, but also when it comes to building the buildings, gold will give you more points above like wood, where wood would give you 3 points, where wood is worth 3 points for buildings rather than gold being worth 6, so it already just inherently is worth more points. It's hard to take a drink of my coffee and because it's like it just ruins the momentum of what I'm saying. But I do kind of have to have something to drink during this, because otherwise my voice would be shot. I really like both games. Mainly, I like Everdell for the theming a bit more. I think the theming is more fun, but I've been kind of known to prefer, like, animal/nature-related games anyways. Like, I think that's probably my favorite theme above all else in board games. Whereas worker placement is probably among my top, like, my favorite genre, like, style of game. But, like, the civilization building in Stone Age is also pretty cool. But I think there's just more to Stone Age than, like, more strategy in reality, because you can pull off some ridiculous combos in there. Granted, there is the luck element, but I really like the fact that you can mitigate it with the tools. Like, if you don't want to have to get lucky, you can just stock up on tools for the beginning of the game. That's what I did the last time I played, and I ended up, like, lapping everyone on the board. Like, on the scoreboard, I, like, went around, like, 3 times because I got so many points. Because early on, I decided to get tools, and no one was blocking the spot. I should have said that earlier on, too. The spots in the middle of the board on Stone Age, like the agriculture, breeding, and tools, those are the spots that can be blocked in that game. Like, if one person goes there on a turn, no one else can go there. But it's only one turn. Like, the next... And the player who gets to go first rotates every round, so it's like you will get an opportunity to get them at least once. That's another thing that I guess I like a little bit more. But there's also the luck element, which you can't really escape. Like, you can stock up on tools all you want, but stocking up on tools takes quite a bit of time and quite a few turns. But I don't know, because there is always going to be that luck element, especially when it comes to getting gold, because unless you have really high-level tools, usually your tools are not going to make that much of a difference, because you need increments of 6 to get another one. Like, if you rolled, say, 13, you'd need 5 more to get the next gold. So you'd need to have upgraded your tools. Let's see, you have 3 slots, you build 3 level 1s in a row, then you get a level 2. You'd need to have built tools 5 times in order to actually have that come into play when it comes to gold. I mean, I guess that's gold only, like gold specifically. It's more useful with the lower value resources like wood and food. But yeah, I don't know. I think I like the game, like, I keep saying this, I think I like the gameplay more of Stone Age, but I like the theming of Everdell a little bit more, and just the art on the cards is extremely cool. There's also expansion. I don't know if there's expansions for both. I think there is, but I've never seen them. Like, the game stores that I go to pretty much don't stock expansions, like, at all. But yeah, I think that's the conclusion I'm coming to, is I like the theming of Everdell more, but I like the gameplay of Stone Age a bit more and the way it handles things. I really like the fact that resources feel like they actually have a different value from each other, much more. Like, I feel like there is still that a little bit in Everdell, but Stone Age, you feel it a lot more drastically, where, like, food, granted, you need a lot more of, because you need to feed your people every turn, but it's not like it's going to be difficult for you to get. Like, usually one roll, unless you roll a 1, you're going to be getting food. And even if you roll a 1, if you have a tool, you're getting food. Whereas gold, it's like if you roll 1 dice, you are pretty unlikely to even get 1 gold. Like, you could really feel the weight of the different values between the resources in Stone Age. Okay, I think that's pretty much exhausted that topic, but now to move on to the Nintendo Direct. To clarify again, this is the Nintendo Direct that occurred in June of 2023, so it's actually, again, pretty interesting. Well, I think most of the games that were announced here aren't coming out until, like, October/November-ish, so I guess they won't be out by the time, because this is my first impressions, really, on all of these. I think this was a massive, massive Direct. Like, who could have expected? Like, it was basically an E3 Direct. Like, E3 used to be the big Nintendo Direct where, like, all of their hype stuff was, other than the one year that they spent, like, 20 minutes talking about Yoshi's Woolly World. Like, I remember that year was pretty bad, but I don't remember what year that was. That was, like, the worst E3 ever. But usually E3 was when Nintendo would step up their game and bring out their big guns. But that's what this felt like, even though there wasn't an E3 this year. It felt like this was Nintendo's big Direct. So they started off with the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which was pretty mid, not gonna lie. I don't think I'm going to get the DLC, at least not right away. I'm at least gonna wait on it. I'm not, like, overly hyped about it, especially with how busy fall is now. Like, I don't feel like I really need to add Scarlet and Violet DLC on top of that. And it didn't seem like there's that much to do in it compared to, comparatively with, Sword and Shield. Like, Sword and Shield, Crown Tundra basically just sold it, because I had immense fun doing the legendary raids, where it doesn't seem like there's anything quite to that level in the Scarlet and Violet DLC. But I guess we'll see when it releases. I just haven't been overly impressed. I might do the same thing I did last time, and maybe buy both when the last pack comes out, because when the Sword and Shield DLC dropped, I didn't buy Isle of Armor when it came out. I just bought both of them when Crown Tundra dropped, so I had them both at the same time as new content. But we'll see. It depends on how big winter is, because winter is when the second pack is coming out. I think the latest game was like November 17th or something like that, for what they announced anyways. I could pull up the Direct, but I think I'm going to talk about it mostly from memory. So it's going to be in kind of a random order, so I apologize about that. what I'm thinking about now, relating to winter releases, they did announce that weird, like, farming sim MMO type RPG thing. I think there was, like, some hunting elements to it. It's free to play, so I'll probably try it at least, but, like, it's like I might as well if it's really free to play. But it's just interesting that after all of the jokes about farming sims from, I think it was the last Direct, they go and announce a farming sim MMO where everyone can do farming simulation together. But it had sort of that fantasy vibe to it-ish. Like, it wasn't just about the farming. I don't know. We'll see when it comes out. I do really like those types of games, but I prefer when there's a good balance of, like, dungeon crawling as well as farming. Like, Harvest Moon games kind of bore me after a while, whereas Rune Factory 3, specifically, I'm really excited for that remake, by the way, Rune Factory 3, and Stardew Valley do it basically perfectly, where there's a balance between, like, all of the elements of the game, and it doesn't get boring fast because there's not a ton of, like, repetitive elements where it's like you're just farming and giving gifts to the same people every single day on end, and basically just waiting for the next season so you can get new seeds and such. Yeah, I don't know. What else? They showed a couple of other farming sim type games. They showed that Fae Farm game. I don't think that one looks that good. I'm probably not going to get that. I really want the Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life because I grew up on Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life. I love that game. And and Rune Factory 3, that remake, obviously. Then Xseed Games showed something else. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I think I could tell it was an Xseed. Well, yeah, because it had their signature cow model from Story of Seasons. That was what told me it was an Xseed Games game, but it wasn't in the Story of Seasons line, and it seemed like it had a bit more of, like, RPG elements to it rather than just farming. I can't remember exactly, like, I can't remember specific details on it. And then there's also, I'm kind of talking about the random stuff first, and then I'm going to go into the big reveals. They're putting Batman, the Arkham trilogy, on the Switch, which is super cool. I will consider getting it. I probably won't, because I think I have two of them. I have one on the Wii U and one on the PS3, I think. I don't think I have all three, but I barely played them. I think I played them. It was one of those games that I played for like an hour or two and then stopped. But I've heard they're really good. And interestingly enough, they haven't said they're cloud-based yet, so that'll be interesting to see if that stays, but I don't know. I have my doubts with all the Resident Evil cloud-based games and the Kingdom Hearts collection cloud-based game. What else? Oh, there was that weird rhythm pigeon game. I don't know. That looked interesting. Again, I think it's free to play, so it's like I'm probably gonna try it. But the minigame, like when it said like a rhythm game battle royale, I was like, ooh, crazy. I'm a band teacher. I'll crush that. But it doesn't seem terribly enticing to me. Like, it seemed like the same like depth of minigame that Fall Guys has, which is pretty low IMO. There was a few other random things that I would probably gloss over. They are putting some Hot Wheels game on the Switch. There was Just Dance. One that a lot of people were like snoozing over was Gloomhaven. And it's actually really funny that it's being put on the Switch because I'm playing Jaws of the Lion right now with some friends that I made that teach at the place that I was student teaching at. I'm playing Jaws of the Lion with them right now. And I went and looked, and Jaws of the Lion is indeed releasing with base Gloomhaven. So it's actually pretty cool because I want to play base Gloomhaven, but the game, for one, I need friends who are willing to sit down and play that campaign with me because it takes a while. And it's also like $200 to buy the full box, the actual board game. So I'll probably get it on the Switch because I think it's like $50 for both the base game and the Jaws of the Lion. Which Jaws of the Lion, I'll probably get physical eventually because you can find it for like $40 or less in some instances. So that'll probably be a buy eventually. But the fact that I'm playing it right now, and it's a campaign game, so it's like once you see everything, it's like you know what happens then. So it's kind of the same equivalent of playing like a story RPG twice. It's like it's fun, but it's not nearly as fun as the first time when everything's unexpected. I just thought it was super funny that dropped around this time when I'm playing Jaws of the Lion with them, because now I can do base Gloomhaven and play it on my Switch. I think that was it for the smaller stuff, at least that interested me. They went over Splatoon Splatfest, but they didn't talk at all about the DLC. I was not expecting Pokemon in the beginning of the Direct. That it didn't blow me away, but it really surprised me because I think that was kind of mid to start off with. I could see that being in the middle, or even them saving it for a Pokemon Presents. Like, it's like they showed Detective Pikachu 2 as well, so it's like there's enough content for a Presents in there because they do a lot of random talking in those. Like, they usually show only about 4 games in the Presents, including like a random like cafe mix update or whatever, or Pokemon Masters EX. Had to refrain from making a joke there for a second. I was just surprised to see Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to open up. I was pretty sure they were gonna do Splatoon 3 DLC to start off the Direct, and they didn't, which, yeah, surprising. And then they literally didn't talk about it whatsoever. All they did was talk about the next Splatfest, which I wonder what's going on there, if it's still releasing this year or not. Another one that interested me was that Square Enix Pixel remaster of, like, I think it was Star Ocean was the name of it. That looked really cool and something that would be up my alley. I might get it. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I was literally right before this Direct telling myself, like, I need to just stick to the franchises that I am playing right now and not invest myself into anything else, because I just don't have the time to play games. At this point, I'm buying games and collecting them, and I don't play half of them. Like, I've said this, I could literally probably spend the rest of my life with, like, a quarter of the library of games that I have and be just fine. Because, yeah, but the consumer in me is making me buy more. At first, there was a split second when I thought it might have been like a Xenoblade Chronicles X, either remaster or sequel, because that was heavily rumored that they're making a sequel to X. But then they showed the pixel stuff, and I was like, nope. But not that I'd be that hyped for that. And it's not like I'm begging for Xenoblade. I have plenty of content as it is. Sorry, I gotta take a sip of my coffee. It's starting to get cold. I'm not drinking it fast enough. But yeah, then there was the big Mario segment in the middle where they showed Mario RPG, which I literally I barely played that game. I played it for maybe an hour, and I gushed over that. Like, it looks incredibly good. Like, as far as remakes go, it's like exactly what a remake needs to be. It's a game that probably could have used a remake, especially since it's pretty hard to get your hands on, for one. And it's old enough to where a remake actually benefits it, unlike a game I'll talk about in about 5 minutes. Yeah, I'm super excited for it because it's a game that I never really got into, but I was always interested in playing it to the end. But I've never been the biggest, oddly enough, as much as I like Pokemon, I've never been big into the turn-based RPGs. Like, it's never been a huge thing that I've been really invested in. I just get bored pretty quickly, not to shun anyone for liking them. It's just a personal thing of mine where when the combat feels really slow, like, I know it's slow and methodical for a reason, don't get me wrong. I don't think it, like, it's a personal thing, and I know that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way. But I think when combat gets too slow and methodical, it gets to a point where it's like, it bores me. But I don't know. Hopefully the remake will get me invested a little bit more. And I hope they don't dumb it down either. Like, I think Square Enix is having a hand in it, which will definitely help. But after the remake of Superstar Saga and the remake of Bowser's Inside Story that we got, that completely dumbed the games down and made them like a snooze fest, like mind-numbingly easy. I am really praying that that doesn't happen, because they didn't really show anything too in-depth, and it'll be hard to tell until people start getting their hands on it. Then they revealed this this new Peach game, which I'm super interested in. I will for sure be buying and playing it. It looks... I mean, they barely showed anything, but from what they showed, it looks like it's going to be fun. I'm hoping it puts, like, it's like a new spin on 3D platformers. Also, not to take away from Mario for a second, I know there's still one more announcement that was made during that I want to talk about, but I just remember that 3D platform that they showed towards the end that's by the Sonic Mania team looks like it's going to be super fun. Like, I'm super excited for it, because 3D platformers are still in my top favorite genres of video games, and they just don't make them like they used to. Like, there was charm in the fact that they had to work around their limitations. Like, Donkey Kong 64 barely worked on the N64 cartridge. Maybe that was an optimization problem, but still, it's like, it was simplistic enough that it was just fun. Like, it was just a fun game that I didn't feel like it wasn't too dumbed down and easy like it seems like Nintendo thinks 3D platformers have to be. That's also what I'm praying doesn't happen to this Peach game. I hope it's not like 3D World, where it's like I can literally play the game sleepwalking. But, yeah, that 3D platformer, the yo-yo, I think, some yo-yo game or something, it looked super fun, and I'm super stoked about it. I'm excited for that one. But then we get to the last announcement in that short Mario segment where they just drop Mario after Mario after Mario. I was hoping for Donkey Kong Country, or even like Mario Baseball. Like, I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. Maybe they're trying to make one that's actually good, unlike the cop-outs that all of the other Mario sports games on the Switch have been. But then they announced they're remaking Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, which is mind-boggling to me, and not in a good way. Like, I was excited for a split second before I realized it was Dark Moon, because I thought it was a new Luigi's Mansion game, and I was like, how are they doing this right now? But I just don't understand the purpose, because that game came out less than 10 years ago, I think, or maybe it was 10 years ago. I'm going to look up the release date right now, because my phone's right here. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Oh, it was... I guess it was a 2013 release. I thought it was 2014 for some reason. So I guess it has been 10 years. But at the same time, like I was saying about Mario RPG, that's a game that's hard to get your hands on, for one. It's on a system that was, like, pre-2000. So it's like a remake definitely benefits it heavily to modernize it a little bit. Luigi's Mansion 2 doesn't need any of that. It's a game that was made 10 years ago. It's not one that's, like, aged poorly or anything. Like, I don't like it that much, but you can go on and play it and have fun. And it doesn't look like they're updating the graphics that much either. It's not like they're completely polishing it to make it look like Luigi's Mansion 3. I will say cartoon, like, for, like, stylized graphics, like, animated and everything, I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is one of, if not the best looking game on the 3D or the Switch. If they could have maybe brought it up to that level, I would maybe be down for it. Or if they, well, I guess it would completely revamp the game if they changed it and made it so it wasn't just specific missions where you go in, you do your one thing and get pulled out. That was what I didn't like about Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, was the fact that you don't just get to freely explore, like, in 1. And another thing, I wouldn't be nearly as upset if it wasn't, if they maybe did 1 and 2 in a bundle together, like they did with Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. Like if they did a 2-pack where it's Luigi's Mansion 1 and Luigi's Mansion 2 bundled together for like $50, because I think that's what it would be worth. But if they are seriously going to try to get like $50, $60 for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, barely enhanced, with probably not much added, I will be pissed. Because that game was $40 when it came out, and then it became a Nintendo Select and went down to $20. So it's like, if they seriously... I will not buy it. I don't think either way. Unless they come out and say, like, later on that it's going to be bundled with Luigi's Mansion 1, then I would be down for it, but I can't stand by it right now at the moment. It baffles me that they decided to remaster that game out of anything they could have done. Like, why not make a new one for 1? I will, like, people sometimes rave about remakes, and I feel like I'm in the minority, but I don't like them. Like, when it's a complete remake in the exact criteria that I described for Mario RPG, I don't mind it. Because I've already said this like 3 times, but it's a game that's hard to get your hands on. It's an old game that could use a modernization. And it's like they completely redid it from the ground up. Like, that sort of remake, I don't mind. But something that came out, like, 10 years ago, and people keep talking about, like, the Wind Waker, wanting Wind Waker and Twilight Princess remakes. Granted, if it was a situation where it was a 2-pack for $60, I would be down. But if they're going to sell both individually for $60 each, when they just put them on the Wii U, I would not be entirely thrilled about that. I mean, I guess I'm not the audience for them, because it's like, I think it's maybe meant for the people who didn't get their hands on them. But still, I don't know. I feel like that's just wasting development resources that could be used to make new games. And I wouldn't have such a problem with it if they didn't keep remaking games. Like, it's literally like every Direct, they announce they're remaking another game. Like, when WarioWare popped up, which I guess I'll talk about now since it's on my mind, I legit thought it was a Smooth Moves remake, and I was about to be livid. Not that I hate Smooth Moves, it's my favorite WarioWare game that I've played, but I thought it was going to be another remake of a game that I already have. But that's one that I'm actually super excited for, because WarioWare Smooth Moves was tons of fun because of the way they used the motion controls. Like, it's just, I have so many memories of playing that one with, like, friends and family, and, like, having some, like, because the microgames in that one are just solely random, and you just have to get up, get ready to swing your arm around like crazy, and not know what to expect from the minigame. Like, it's like sometimes you'd shake the controller and something bad would happen immediately, and it's like, what did I even do? What was I supposed to do in that one? And I don't know, I feel like some of the ones where you just have to, like, press a button or something just kind of, I feel like, lessened the charm a little bit, but I'm super excited for the new WarioWare game. I really don't have that much to say about it, to be honest. What else was there in this Direct? I feel like I'm missing a lot. Other than, like, big... Well, there's the Pikmin segment. Pikmin 4, I'm excited for it. And this is the one interesting perspective you'll get from me, because the game will be out by the time you get to see this. But it's really interesting how they're marketing it, because they're doing it in a way that keeps a lot hidden. Like, I have no idea what the story is, other than the fact that we're trying to rescue the castaways. Because you collect the items to expand the radar, but also why is there fruit and random, like, treasures and artifacts and stuff? Why are we collecting that? Like, I don't think that's been said yet. I will say, I am a little disappointed by what we've seen so far of the Danduri battle mode. I think Bingo Battle was perfect, and this is a massive downgrade from what we saw. Maybe the maps will look better, but it literally just looks like a generic map. Like, it looks like Block Zone or whatever it's called from Mario Kart battle mode. Like, just a generic blocky battle arena that's tiny. I like the average-sized maps on Bingo Battle on Pikmin 3. I don't like the massive one, like the the one with a big castle in the middle, but I like the average-sized ones, where you have plenty of room between the two of you to work. Like, I think the regular sand one is perfect, where in the middle sometimes there's the long legs. Like, that size is about perfect, but these ones, it was almost like they could see each other from their bases, which I think is too small. I don't know, maybe there will be more maps. Hopefully there is. It seems like there might be a bunch of different modes in this game, though, because what someone else was speculating on a stream that I had a bit ago was that the night mode was going to be a separate, like, tower defense type thing, and it wasn't going to be a part of the main story. Which... Who's calling me? I don't know who that is. Which, I don't know... Sorry, that call made me lose my train of thought. I don't know how accurate that is, because I feel like they wouldn't just lock Glow Pikmin behind nighttime and only have it be in a random extra mode, especially as a new Pikmin. I feel like it's going to be at least a little involved in the main story, but it is interesting how, from what we've seen so far, night, like exploring at night, is basically just entirely tower defense, which is interesting in a Pikmin game. Like, it seems like the gameplay is very varied between the modes. I'm interested just to see how it plays. My one big concern is that the dog is going to be too overpowered and is going to make the game just a sweep. Like, it's going to be too easy because the dog is going to just be too overpowered. But we'll see, I guess, when it comes out. I mean, you will know by now, but I will see when it comes out. I'm excited about the fact that you get to actually go in a person's house this time, where some of the settings are like in a house. Like, it reminds me of Katamari in that way, almost. Like, the way the settings look, almost. It looks kind of like Katamari. Caves making a return is huge too. I'm hoping they're pretty deep too. I don't know that we've seen caves that go down multiple or like had that confirmed yet. I don't think that's been confirmed to be the case. Like, for all we know, it could be just like one floor. Like, you go down, you get everything you need on the one floor, and then you come back out. But I really hope it's like Pikmin 2, where they go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I honestly was a pretty big fan of the randomized dungeon element in Pikmin 2. I think it made it very replayable because you'll get a different experience every time. Maybe they were a little too punishing at times, but I don't know. I'm hoping this game is longer. It seems from what we've gotten so far that there's a lot of content, but I'm also hesitant because I don't know, like, it's hard to tell how many different areas there's going to be in the game. But, like, Pikmin 3 and Pikmin 1 are too short, in my opinion, and Pikmin 2 is maybe a little too long, but there's not really, in my opinion, there's not really a too long in a video game. Like, I think Pikmin 2 is, like, the perfect length. I hope it's something like that. Well, we will see. And then after Pikmin 4, they showed that Pikmin 1 and 2 are coming to, well, they dropped on the Switch that day, which is super cool because, for one, it's a lot more accessible because, again, it's been a while since these games originally came out. They were remastered on the Wii, and they were on the Wii U eShop. So they've been available since last year to people. But the fact that they completely changed the control scheme and changed the treasures in Pikmin 2 is kind of crazy to me that they put that much effort in to put these games on the Switch. Like, that actually is pretty insane to me. I haven't gotten to play them yet. I've seen that the controls are slightly different. Like, it's like you have to hold L to swarm. But the fact that you can still swarm in those games is huge. I was worried it was going to be something like Pikmin, like the new play control, where you have to, like, point at the screen and that sort of thing, and it would mimic that. But luckily, that's not the case. What else was there? And in this case, with the remasters, for one, the price is affordable. Although I don't agree with Pikmin 1 being $30 alongside Pikmin 2, I think it should be $20 and $30, and then maybe $40 for the bundle. But it's $10. But like, these games, now that the Wii U eShop is closed, are not readily available. Like, for one, buying them on the Wii is pretty expensive. Like, you'll be spending upwards to like $60 on them. I do have a copy of Pikmin 2 New Play Control sealed, or Nintendo Select, whatever it was called. And the GameCube ones are ridiculously expensive. So it's nice that they're more readily available, and relatively cheap, too. Like, it's not like they're charging $50 each. They're $50 for them together, so it's really not bad. So this is a case where I think a remaster / well, it's a remaster, not a remake. I think it's warranted and totally fine. Going back to my conversation about Dark Moon. They briefly showed Sonic Superstars. That's on my mind a little bit right now. I don't have a lot to say about Sonic Superstars. I think it's going to be a super fun game. It looks really good. I'm super excited for it because I really liked Mania. I really liked the original classic Sonic games. And I'm hoping that Sonic Superstars brings a lot to the table. The one thing that concerns me is that the fact that 4 players can play might have impacted the level design. That's the only concern that I have. Like, we haven't seen a whole lot so far that could indicate that. But the fact that one player could go shooting off the screen and leaving everyone in the dust might have impacted their design choices on the levels. Like, we might not get any, like, Stardust Speedway type levels that you can beat in, like, 20 seconds. I think it's time to talk about the big one. Super Mario Wonder. It looks interesting. I really don't have a lot to say about it. I'm super happy about it because it legitimately looks like a breath of fresh air. Like, it finally looks like a creative-inspired game for the first time in a long time for, like, generally speaking, for Nintendo. Like, they've had Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but, like, this seems like a total breath of fresh air for another one of Nintendo's IPs, where it seemed like Mario games were getting way formulaic and basically like Pokemon almost, where it's like, well, Pokemon, maybe not the same type of concept, but it's like they're pumping out the same game with just new levels with like 2 new power-ups every so often. I'm glad that they decided to let this one cook for a little bit before they decided to push it out. I was worried we wouldn't get a new 2D Mario game for a while because of the existence of Mario Maker, but we did, and it looks really inspired and awesome. It'll be interesting to see what the level, like the general like level structure is like how long is a single level in this game, and how long are the worlds, and what are the like biomes we'll be exploring. Is it going to be the typical like plains, desert, water, ice, forest, and whatnot, so on and so forth? Or will it be something entirely new and different? It'll be interesting to see. And the fact that Daisy's playable is really cool too. I'm wondering if they're hiding more playable characters. Like, there's already a lot, so I wouldn't complain if they weren't. But it seems like something they do, because, like, why would they drop everything at once? Like, show everything the game has to offer at once. I feel like there's got to be, like, one more hidden playable character or something. Like, Waluigi or Wario or something. It'd be cool to have Wario back in some capacity in the 2D platform world and Waluigi there, period. But that's all I really have to say. I think I've talked plenty about the Direct. I'm actually running out of time. One second. I have to respond to a message. I'm actually running out of time, so I think I might save the Xenoblade talk for later. I wasn't expecting to talk about the Direct for that long. I think I'm going to do my record prediction for the NFC North. Okay. Let me look at the schedule here. We'll do the Vikings last. I'm going to start with the Bears. Okay. Not doing preseason games. Okay. First game of the season, the Bears at home against the Packers. That's actually a pretty big season opener because the Packers are a big question mark. Well, not a big question mark. A moderate-sized question mark. I think the Bears honestly have a shot just because of how bad the I need like a notepad or something to keep track of all this with. Hold on. I should have thought of this beforehand. Give me a second. I need to find a pencil. I have no sharpened pencils in my vicinity. How did this happen? Okay, I found one. Alright. So I think the Bears actually win this one, because the Packers have been notorious for being bad week 1, and by notorious I mean the last 2 years. And I think the Bears will come into the season having something to prove, feeling like they have to do something, because like they had the number 1 overall pick and they traded it, because obviously they feel confident in their quarterback. So I feel like, especially at home, I think the Bears take this one. Then they're at the Buccaneers. I think they win that one too. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be that spectacular this season. That'll probably be a pretty defensive game, and not because the offenses are stellar, because the Bucs have a pretty good defense and the Bears don't have a very good offense. I mean, granted, they at least have, is it DJ Moore for wide receiver? I think. So they at least have someone now. But at the same time, I don't know. That's a bit of a question mark, but I'm going to put a W for the Bears on that one. At the Chiefs is basically an L. Like, there's no way that they could hope to win that one. Like, it's like a total mismatch. At home against the Broncos. The Broncos are another team that's kind of a bit of a question mark this season because of the new coach. Like, Sean Payton could change that team around for the better. However, they were very bad last year. Like, it just was not clicking. I think the Bears win that one at home. They've got a pretty easy beginning to their schedule other than facing the Chiefs. Then they are at the Commanders. Who do the Commanders have at quarterback now? Because they don't have Heineke anymore. I don't even know who the Commanders quarterback is. I feel like I'm totally blanking. I feel like it's like some veteran that got traded there or something. I don't know. I feel like I should know, but I don't. Honestly? It's hard to say. I'm gonna say the Bears win that one too. I don't know why I'm so high on the Bears all of a sudden. But I think they beat the Commanders. Because the Commanders are like the definition of mid, and maybe the Bears are the definition of bad, but we don't really know that yet because I think that there are improvements being made over there. At home against the Raiders, I think they win easily because the Raiders don't really have a quarterback. They have Garoppolo, but I think I read that he failed a physical or something. And granted, they have Devontae Adams, but they have, like, no defense. The Raiders' defense blows, and I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster when you're going against the Bears, because if the Bears can actually score on you, that's when you're going to have problems, because the defense on the Bears is actually pretty good, like above average. Oh, I skipped over the Vikings. I don't know why I did. They play the Vikings before they play the Raiders. But I'm saying they're going to win against the Raiders, so I'm putting that one down for a W. At home against the Vikings, I think the Vikings win. They've kind of mopped the floor with the Bears the past couple years. I don't think the Bears are winning that one. Because kind of like the Chiefs, but to a much lesser degree, I think it's a pretty big mismatch just because the Vikings offense is good enough to overcome the Bears defense. Kirk Cousins never plays very well at Soldier Field, it seems, but I think it's going to be a loss for the Bears there. And the fact that, like, maybe the Vikings defense is a big question mark, but I think the Bears offense is bad enough to where it doesn't matter. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I think they lose that one. Against the Chargers, at the Chargers, I think the Bears lose that one as well. The Chargers are shaping up to be a pretty strong team. They're just inconsistent. They're kind of like... Well, yeah, people make this comparison all the time, but they're basically the Vikings, really. Like, they're a team that can be flashy in games, but they lose in big situations. Like, yeah, I don't know. But I think the Bears lose to the Chargers because they have a strong enough offense to again overcome the Bears. Granted, at home for the Chargers is like an away game because so few fans seem to show up. But I think the Chargers take that one against the Bears. At the Saints is an interesting one because Derek Carr could change things there. I'm going to give the Saints the W on that one against the Bears. The Bears lose that one at the Saints. Because I think once you get above those, like, C-tier teams, I think that's where the Bears are going to struggle. Like, they can beat your average/below average teams, but once you get to the ones that are on the top end of average to above average, that's when they're going to struggle. And I would say the Saints are one of those borderline above average teams where, especially with now, like, I'm not saying Derek Carr is, like, a god at playing quarterback or something, but he's an improvement by definition, and I think quarterback is really all that they were missing over in New Orleans. So that'll be interesting to see what goes down this year for them, but I think the Bears are losing that game. Bears at home against the Panthers, I think, is going to be a W. Who knows, maybe the new quarterback will be good, but I think it seems from what I've seen before, and I'm not like, I won't claim to know a lot about football. I'm not a football analyst or something. I'm just pretty much a casual viewer giving my shitty opinions. But the Panthers, they have a rookie quarterback that they're kind of riding on this year, and from what I've seen, it seems like the first year for a rookie quarterback is usually pretty rocky. Granted, this is pretty deep into the season, like it's what, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? It's week 10, but I think it's going to take an entire season for that offense to really click. And they don't really have a whole lot for, like, receivers or anything either. They have Miles Sanders, for what it's worth, and Adam Thielen, but, like, they've kind of got those B-tier players that are starting to go down the hill. But point is, I think the Bears are winning that one, especially since it's at home. I think Soldier Field is actually I mean, they had a 3 and whatever record last season, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I think it's pretty difficult. It's decently difficult to win at Soldier Field. Like, it's a pretty good home environment for the Bears. At home against the Lions, I think the Lions take that one. People are high on the Lions. I'm not, as you'll see when we get there. But I think the Bears lose to the Lions here. And that's mainly just because the Lions are, by definition, the better team in this scenario. They have a lot more going for them. Goff is way better than anyone could have ever expected him to be. And they actually have some solid young receivers. And their defense is way better. Like, I thought their defense is pretty crappy, actually. They made improvements over the offseason, so it's kind of like the Vikings, a question mark. But they were the worst defense in the league last year, so I shouldn't say they're good by any means. But it seems like the offense is good enough for them to win in spite of their defense. So they have that going for them. But I think the Bears are losing to the Lions at the Lions. And same thing with the Vikings. Same sort of scenario as I said before, except now it's at US Bank, so I think it's going to be even worse for the Bears. We've pretty much handed it to them the past few seasons when they've come to US Bank. So I think the Vikings take that one pretty handily. Just because I think it's a total mismatch IMO for the Bears. Then the Bears at home against the Lions. Because it's a divisional game, I'm going to give this one to the Bears. I think they win against the Lions at home. Because I think relatively, I think they're pretty even. Just because the Lions' defense, while again, it's a question mark because they've made improvements over the offseason, we don't know how it's going to pan out. The Lions' defense is atrocious. So, and the Bears' defense is pretty good. So, I think it creates a bit of a mismatch for the Lions. So, I think the Bears take that matchup when they're at home against them. The Browns, on the other hand, at the Browns. The Browns just didn't seem to click last year with Deshaun Watson. I didn't watch any games to see exactly how bad he looked, but they didn't win a lot. I don't know. It's hard to know. I think the Bears lose this one just by partially because of the home field advantage factor for the Browns. I think the Browns win that one with it being away or in their favor for home field advantage. At home against the Cardinals, I'm going to kind of speed up my analysis a little bit, so forgive me for not going too in-depth on some of these teams. I think the Bears win at home against the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals might actually end up tanking next year. They don't have a whole lot going for them. Like, they have Kyler Murray, and that's about it. I think the Bears win, especially with it being at home. They don't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore. Granted, he didn't play most of the season last season anyways, because he was hurt, I think. But still. I don't think the season's going to go very well for the Cardinals. Falcons at home. For the Bears, it's at home. At home against the Falcons. I think that's a win for the Bears. I think the Falcons are going to be even worse. Well, actually, They almost got snuck into the playoffs last season, didn't they? Well, only because that division was so bad, wasn't it? Like, I think Tampa Bay got in the playoffs with a losing record or something. Or, like, nearly a losing record. Because they won the division, and that was the only reason. I don't know. I think the Falcons are going to be pretty bad. They might be the worst team in that division. It just depends on how their rookie... Well, not rookie anymore. I think it's his second year as quarterback. It depends on how he pans out, I think. At the Packers, last game of the season. That'll be interesting on the implications of it, like, playoff-wise. Or if they're resting. Like... I think, assuming that this last game of the season, they're playing their starters, Bears at Packers, I think the Packers take that one. I think the Bears lose that game. So what have we got now for total wins? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins. And would that be 8 losses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so about an average year for the Bears I have in my predictions. I predict them to go 9-8, I guess. I think I'm going to do the Packers next. This will get easier as I go because we're playing similar teams. It's just a matter of... So I won't have to go as in-depth. I think the Packers are massively at a disadvantage this season because they're going to have a bit of a tougher schedule, aren't... Well, no, they're gonna have about the same schedule as the rest of the division. I was on preseason, and I was like, they play the Bengals? What? No, that's not the case. That's preseason. So, the Packers, like I said, first game, I think the Bears take that. Just because, for one, I think the Packers will still be kind of gelling with their offense, their completely new offense. And they have been notorious for playing pretty bad in the first game of the season. And it's at home for the... Like, the Bears have the home field advantage. So I think the Packers lose the first game of the season. At the Falcons, I think they win, though. I think they have the edge over the Falcons just because the Falcons are a pretty rough team. At home against the Saints, that's an interesting one. I think the Saints defense will hand it to this Packers offense without Rodgers. So I think that's going to be an L for the Packers. I think they also lose at home. Well, it's tough. I don't know if they lose at home against the Lions or not. I think they beat the Lions at home. I don't know. It's tough. I think I'm going to give them the L on that one. I think the Lions are just a much better team than the Packers will be. I think it'll take them about a half a season to kind of gel into this offense. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Christian Watson will be MVP of the team and carry, but we'll see what happens. I think the Packers do win against the Raiders, though. Even though it's at the Raiders, I think the Packers will be the better team. Broncos as well. They play the Raiders and the Broncos back-to-back. Easy. I think they win against the Broncos. The Broncos and the Raiders are really pretty comparable, like, skill level-wise, like, where they rank in, like, the overall power rankings of the teams. I think the Packers take both those games. The Vikings going at the Packers, I think the Vikings win. I would say, even though the Vikings have been pretty notoriously bad, well, not really. They haven't been terrible at Lambeau. I think they was it 2 years ago, the Vikings were terrible and they won at Lambeau for whatever reason. I think the Vikings... Oh, I put a W because I forgot I was actually ranking the Packers. I think the Vikings win that one. The Packers will lose. I don't know. Actually, am I on the right week? Hold on. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was the 7th game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. I think the Packers lose to the Rams, too. Granted, the Rams were not very good last year, but also I think their offense is going to be back into the swing of things this year. We'll see. I don't know. I don't think the Packers are winning that one though. Steelers though, that'll be a W. I think the Packers will also win against the Chargers, mainly because it'll be at home. I think that's going to be a relatively even matchup, but the home field advantage factor is going to help them greatly. That I think they lose at the Lions. Chiefs at home for the Packers, I think the Packers will lose. Giants, I think they lose that one as well, actually. I think that's another situation where it's about even, but because the Packers are going at the Giants, I think they're going to lose that game. At home against the Buccaneers, I think the Packers win that one pretty handily. At the Panthers, again, that's just a weak division. Finish. At the Vikings, I think they lose that. And then the last game at home against the Bears, I think they win. Okay, let's tally up the wins and losses for the Packers. Wins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 and 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so again, about average is what I'm predicting for them. I think it'll take them a while to gel in their offense. And I think, kind of similar to the Bears, actually, they'll win against the mediocre to average team. Like, that'll be kind of their top threshold of the teams that they're able to beat. But once you get into the top of average to above average teams, I don't think they're going to be able to win those matchups. Okay, Lions time. Oops, I just looked up Lions. I forgot to look up schedule. Okay. Oh, that's right, the Lions are the season opener at the Chiefs. People are making a big deal about this game like it's going to be some shootout or something, which it could be. But I really think that's going to be an easy W for the Chiefs. I think people are hyping the Lions up way too much to be some incredible team when they really were. Like, granted, it's because they won so many games in a row at the end of the season last year that they think they'll carry the momentum into this year, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose against the Chiefs. At home against the Seahawks, that's going to be a pretty even matchup, but kind of similar to what I was saying for some of the games with the Packers. I think the home field advantage is going to give the Lions the edge on that one. Like, I think they win against the Seahawks. At home against the Falcons, that's an easy win for them. Did I give them the win? Yeah, I gave them both wins against the Packers. I have to remember to cross-reference those. At home against the Panthers, again, an easy win for them. And then they play at the Buccaneers, which will be, again, easy. The Ravens, that'll be an interesting one, because the Ravens are kind of another question mark, because it's like, how good is Lamar Jackson really going to be this year? I think I'm going to give the Ravens the win here, because it's at the Ravens. Again, it's sort of a similar, where they're similar in the power rankings, like similar area, but I think the Ravens having the home field advantage is really going to make the difference there. At home against the Raiders, ECW. At the Chargers, I think they win that one too. I think I had them win both against the Bears too, right? Pretty sure that's game what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I had the Bears win that one. Did I? I did. Huh. Amazing how my mind can be changed in a span of like 20 minutes. I guess I have the Bears winning at the Lions. I don't remember doing that, but oh well. Then they win at home against the Packers, I think. That's 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. Back on track. Then Saints. I think the Lions win against the Saints, too. The Lions actually might be the team to beat just because their schedule isn't that tough. That might... It'll be sort of a situation with who's going to make a mistake first, the Vikings or the Lions. That might be what makes or breaks the winning the division here. Then they play at the Bears. Did I give the Bears the win on that one too or not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Did I really say that the Bears were going to win both games against the Lions, or did I write that wrong? I feel like I meant to write... I think I wrote it wrong. I'm going to continue with it because that'll keep consistency, but I swear I might have had them splitting where the Bears were going to win at home, but we're going to lose when they were going at Detroit. But I think I might have gotten confused in my head and wrote a W instead of an L because I was talking about how the Lions were going to win. So I wrote a W instead of an L for the Bears. I don't know. Something ain't adding up here. Okay, Broncos and Lions. Broncos will lose that one, especially since it's at home. The Lions at the Vikings. I think the Vikings will win that one. The Lions at the Cowboys. I actually think the Cowboys are the better team, especially since it's at the Cowboys. I think the Lions lose that one too. But I think at home against the Vikings, the Lions will win. That's a lot of W's. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 wins for the Lions. And that makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses. 11 and 6. I think it's supposed to be 12 and 5, and the Bears were supposed to be 8 and 9. But I'm gonna leave it just because consistency, and I don't remember for sure. Maybe I said the Bears were gonna sweep the Lions, but I seriously doubt it. Okay. Nice, my teaching license just got approved. Okay, Vikings time. So, at home against the Buccaneers, I think the Vikings win that easily. At the Eagles, I think the Vikings lose. Like, I think it's a game that's possible for the Vikings to win, but I'm going to take the safe option and say they're going to lose it. I'm pretty sure that's the way it's going to roll. Chargers at the Vikings. Vikings at home against the Chargers. I think the Vikings take that one. Vikings at Panthers. Another pretty easy W. I think the Panthers are going to be crap this year. At home against the Chiefs. That's going to be an interesting one, actually. Because I think it's going to be harder for the Vikings to win at Philadelphia than it will be for the Vikings to win at home against the Chiefs. I honestly am going to give the Vikings the win on that one. And maybe I'm wrong for that, but I think it's going to be a shootout, kind of like the Rams and Chiefs game, and whoever scores last is going to win. I think it's going to be one of those. And maybe it'll be the Vikings. We'll see. I'm going to predict they're winning that one. I don't care. I'm pretty sure I said the Vikings sweep the Bears, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Yeah, the Vikings win at the Bears. At home against the 49ers. That's going to be a tough one because the Vikings have notoriously not played them very well. That's another one of those that could go either way. And maybe this is the homer in me talking, but I'm going to say they're winning that one. No, they're not. That's going to be an L. I was going to say their quarterback is kind of a question mark, but they don't really need a quarterback when they have, like, all-star running back Christian McCaffrey and wide receivers Deebo Samuel and Ayuk. On top of having Kittle. I think I had the Vikings winning against the Packers, if I remember right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Vikings at Falcons. A win. Vikings at home against the Saints. I would say they're comparable, honestly. Especially with the whole new quarterback thing. But the fact that it's the Vikings are playing them at home, I think gives them the home field edge. And then at home against the Bears, they're winning. At the Raiders, W. At the Bengals, that's going to be an L. At home against the Lions, they win. At home against the Packers, they win. And at the Lions, they will lose. Notice how I sped up. Every team that I got through, I sped up more and more. Okay. W's for Vikings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 and 5. 1, 2. Finish! Wait, why do I only have 4 L's? 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I miscount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What? Did I miss a game or something? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I missed a game somewhere. I don't know where... Oh, I think it was the... I missed the at Broncos game. That'll be a win. I skipped over that one. So, 13 and 4. Which is a high prediction. But I really... I think our schedule is easy enough to where I think the Vikings are winning at least, like, 11, 12 games. The only one that I think is questionable out of all of my picks is the Chiefs, like, winning against the Chiefs. I think that's the only real questionable one. I think they have really a pretty easy schedule this year. And I honestly think the way the North Division is going to go this year, it's going to be the Vikings and the Lions battling for first place, and the Bears and Packers battling to be not last. Like, it's going to be like a pretty big disparity between the bottom of the top two and the top of the bottom two. Like, I think the Lions and the Vikings are going to be pretty close to each other record-wise, and the Bears and the Packers are going to be pretty close to each other records-wise, and then there's going to be a gap in the middle. Like, I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure I did write the one W wrong on the Bears. I think the Bears should be 8 and 9, which would put them even with the Packers, actually, in my record predictions, and the Lions should be 12 and 5, but I'm not positive on that. But that's gonna do it for this first episode. I'm gonna save the Xenoblade talk for another one, because I ended up talking for quite a while about the Nintendo Direct, but I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. I hope you continue to come back for more. And yeah, I just hope you have a great week. This will be posted weekly. Every Saturday is when it'll be posted. Well, I can't confirm or I can't say that for sure it'll be Saturday, but it'll be every day consistently. Whatever day I post this on, it will be weekly from that day. But thank you all for watching. Goodbye.